Good morning, everyone. So today, I'm going to share with you a few stories from my career, and they're going to be represented by anecdotes, and I'm hoping you'll get some wisdom out of them, but at the very least, you'll get some amusement. So, to set the stage, let's talk about my first 5 years real quick. For me, in my first year, I count as my internships. I was learning the basics, working for a number of large multinational firms in the Vancouver, BC area, doing a lot of good fieldwork. Once I graduated, I worked full-time on another firm and got a lot of good fieldwork again. That would be years 2 to 4, and I got stuck in a master's degree in the way. And my 5th year, I would say that's when I started doing more design work and more project management work and became licensed as a professional engineer. So I'll give you 5 lessons from each of those years sequentially. Year 1. This is my first or second internship, and in that project, I was doing ground improvement quality assurance field reviews for stone column installation at a liquefiable site. And my job, as was explained to me, was to count buckets, meaning buckets of gravel going into each stone column, and the only qualification I needed was to be able to count up to about 15. So perfect task for an intern. Can't really mess that up, can I? But with ground improvement, you also need to do post-installation verification testing, and that's typically done with penetration tests, or CPTs. So the ground improvement contractor, it actually happened to be Keller, they did their CPTs, and the tip resistance came out a little low. And that tends to happen sometimes. And they said the fines content is probably a bit too high. So, okay, we got to prove that. So they arranged for the drill rig to come out on site and do some sampling. They got a solid stem auger out there. You can see the picture on the left, and they did some sampling. Field engineer's grabbing all the samples from Keller, and he's asking me, "Do you want any samples?" And I said, "No, my job's just to count buckets." Bit of a dumb thing to say on my part. So he gave me a bit of a weird look, and just kept going until his sampling was done. But I noticed his samples got a bit larger than normal. Fun stuff. So he asked me again, once the drill rig is already off site, "You should probably ask your boss if you actually need samples or not." And so I did, and my boss said, "Yeah, you should probably do that. We want to do our own testing." The drill rig's already gone, can't do much about that, so I sheepishly asked the field engineer, "Can I take some of your sample?" And he's like, "Sure thing, buddy." And that was the first time I probably got my hands dirty, and that's the picture on the right that I sent to my boss after as a souvenir. So lesson 1 is, as engineers, we're not paid to follow instructions. We're paid to apply judgment. We're supposed to think critically no matter the task. So to the interns out there, to anyone out there, please keep that in mind. Don't be stupid like me. Take that lesson. Okay, year 2. Now I'm no longer an intern. I don't have an excuse to be stupid anymore, right? I'm on a job site now where it's a subdivision development at a hillside construction in the greater Vancouver area again. As typical, they're cutting areas of the site where grades can be dropped and filling areas of the site where grades need to be raised, where there's building pads and roads, so on and so forth. Now the site here is a glacial till site. So they're using the same soils that they're cutting to fill. So you're putting till on more till, and they'll all look the same. So that's great. I go on site on my first week, and my task was to do density testing, nuclear gauge density testing to assess compaction. Typical task for a junior engineer. I was told, with no specific instruction, to just test anywhere, kind of randomly. So I tested on the right side of that image you see here. And I got a result of 96% when the spec was 95, so great stuff. The foreman for the general contractor shows up and asks me, "Why are you testing here? That's native." That's great. So I just tested natural ground, and, now he found that very amusing. And he asked me what the number was, and I gave it to him, 96%. Then he calls over the rest of his crew and asks me to repeat myself, and then they start laughing their butts off. And why is that? They've consistently been getting 97 to 98% in their fill areas. So I've now convinced the earthworks contractor that they can compact better than a glacier. That was amazing for them and very embarrassing for me. So, lesson learned there is you can still be an idiot even if you're not an intern. But the real lesson is, the field is the real classroom. You can learn everything you want in the class, but the contractors are sometimes the best teachers, so please respect them when you're in the field. Now, away from the funny stuff, I stopped kind of screwing up on stupid things. This is a site where I was working on a highway widening project, a big design build in the Rocky Mountain area of British Columbia and Alberta, near the border. This is a Trans-Canada highway connecting Canada from coast to coast. It's the biggest or the most important transportation route in Canada by car. So this was a site that's about 7 hours away from Vancouver. So what I decided to do for one long weekend is I didn't want to drive home. I was just going to hang out and hike around a bit. So on a Friday night, I'm just getting cozied up, about to sleep. There's a ton of rain, fun stuff. And the contractor calls up and tells me, hey, we're going to need you out here in the morning because there's been a bunch of landslides. Well, that's fun. And typically, landslide reconnaissance tasks are done by more senior engineers, more principal engineers and experts. But I was the only geotechnical engineer nearby, and it's a long weekend, so I got stuck with that task. Great opportunity, but absolutely terrifying. So that Saturday morning, I went out, and principal engineer was on the phone with me the whole time. And I looked around, and it's just a bunch of debris flows. The mountains puked on us because of all the rain. Fun stuff. High pressure. Thankfully, no one actually got particularly hurt. Certainly no fatalities. Only a couple cars got a little damaged. That's about it, like the one you see here. The lesson for me in that site was that as geotechnical engineers, we work in risk. And risk always comes with real consequences. And when you see a failure like that, and property damage or whatever it is, that makes a profession so much more real. And it makes it so much more gratifying to be able to practice in this field. Lesson 4. I was talking to Professor Bray earlier this morning. This is a picture from grad school when I was at UC Berkeley. I had the opportunity to be a TA, effectively, for the undergraduate soil mechanics course. And at Berkeley, this was an elective. This was an elective. So I figured, oh, everyone actually wants to be here. Oh, they've got like a 60 to 100 geotechnical engineers. That's amazing. So at the start of that tutorial, effectively, I asked them, hey, how many of you actually want to be geotechnical engineers? I think I got one hand up. All right, so that's fun. I had a long road ahead of me. And the whole semester, I tried my very best to make geotechnical engineering as interesting as I possibly could. In the picture here, you see me trying to teach compaction theory, the theory behind compaction curves and Proctor compaction testing. As I know by now, I can test compaction of both native and fill soils somehow. Yeah, and I think that kind of resonated with them, me being able to share actual field stories, practical experience to make geotechnical engineering much more interesting and real. At the end of the semester, I think I asked the same question. How many of you want to be geotechnical engineers now? I think I went up from 1 to 2.5. So not bad, but I think that's an incremental improvement, and I was still really proud of that. And I think the lesson for me there was that representing a profession as geotechnical engineers is a privilege and a responsibility. If each of us took that incremental step and gave back to the students, K-12 students, undergraduate students, graduate students, we would make a real impact in this world. I personally believe that's the most important thing that we should do as geotechnical engineers today is to give back to the students so we continue to attract students into our great profession and have a great future and fill this room even more than it is. Lesson 5. This one's a tough one to talk about. After 4 years of experience, typically, in the US and Canada, in most parts of US and Canada, you have enough experience to become a professional engineer, a licensed professional engineer. So I had my 4 years of experience. I applied to be a professional engineer, and I was rejected. Not because I messed up, not because I did anything wrong in my application, not because I did anything wrong at work, but because most of my experience was in the field and not enough design and project management. And that, for me, as someone who's very career-oriented and highly motivated, that was absolutely crushing. And what did I do? I talked to my supervisor and said, hey, I got to stop saying yes to every assignment you give me. I need more design work. I need more project management work. And so my firm and my supervisor worked with me to get me that experience. And some of the pictures you see here are a result of that conversation. Projects I've worked on that have already been constructed. Everything from levees, protecting airports, to a precast facility for a major transportation project, to a landslide repair. A great variety of experience. So since that rejection, in about, 16 months, I got licensed not only in British Columbia, in Canada, I also got licensed in Washington State in the US, because I was hyper-motivated, and I sought out the experience I needed to advance. My advice to you here, and the lesson learned from me is, don't let your career happen to you, be intentional, and seek out the opportunities you need to advance where you want to be. Conventional wisdom is to go with the flow, say yes to everything, and that's good. That's great to a point, and you'll learn a lot, but there are going to be times where you have to look out for yourself and seek out those opportunities you need to get where you want to be. So I repeat, please do not let your career happen to you. Take some control of that and do what you love. With that, thank you for your time, and appreciate it.